So, Tom, how you doing? Good to see you.
Good to see you.
Moonshot Baby. Is that a song? It is that should be that a song? Because you're the moonshot guy, right?
Yeah.
And beyond.
Moonshot is one of the brands that I have. Yeah.
Oh, fantastic. So, Tom, we've known each other for a long time. You were at IBM before. Now you're at HP. So let's do this. Starting with you. Line up. Quick intro about the name, obviously. The names are listed, but I want to make sure that it's not the same sequence. Talk about what you're doing today in the current company.
Yeah, very good. Yeah. I spent early part of my career at IBM where we met way back and was an IBM fellow and CTO for the x86 server business. And then went to National Instruments, an embedded computer company, and now I'm at HP. I have a VP of R&D role, and I'm doing hyperscale servers and IoT systems. And it's an IT world combining with the physical world is a very interesting dynamic. One of the revolutions that are happening today that very nicely complements cloud.
Fantastic. Let's move on. So, Anush, we talked about you a lot today. You're like the star. You're the Tom Cruise of the panel.
I'm recording it for my boss to hear that.
Oh my God. TK is going to give you a raise, I'm sure.
So hi, I'm Anuj. I take care globally the system integration business for Wipro. A long-term Wiproite, that's the only company I've seen till now. I do a lot of work on the open data center pilot, which is the vision of Wipro, and IoT and voice platforms are some other things which I carry on.
So that open data center platform is started basically with you. You're the creator, father, mother, uncle, aunt of open data center for Wipro. When TK talks about it and gets all the credit, actually, you and your team is making it happen.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, we genuinely believe, and we're not defensive about it, we believe the future is open data center. We believe that's where the customers will converge, and we are doing, and I'm sure we'll talk more about it. That's where it's going to head as we go forward.
Super. So, Getan, great to see you, Getan, my dear friend from Belgium. So, a little bit background on what you're doing at VMware.
Sure, thanks, Tarkan. So I'm Gaetan Castelline. I'm at VMware. I run the product marketing team on software-defined storage. So things like virtual SAN, vVars, and really the whole SDS stack.
Super, super. And then we're going to talk about some of the things that we announced. Carl came in actually to talk about some of the things we were doing. So in the same spirit, moving ahead fast.
Mike Telang. I joined Wells Fargo 10 months ago, 13 years prior with Cisco. I'm the chief architect at Wells Fargo, and my responsibilities are across the entire stack, so including unified communications network, data center, etc.
So you know Praveen, right? You guys must know each other,
I'm
right?
sure we've met each other in the past. Yes.
Fantastic. I usually go to Cisco meetings and introduce people to each other, because you guys are so big. Go ahead.
Balaji Siva, I lead the product strategy and product management around open solutions for UCS.
At Cisco?
At Cisco, of course.
Do you know Mike Thielen?
I don't know him, I know Praveen.
Okay, good. Nice.
So specifically OpenStack-based solutions as well as what we do in the container space.
Fantastic, Balaji. Great to have you. Ben, how you doing? I like the hairstyle. You changed a little bit. Looks like that supermodel look.
Oh, thank you very much. I always strive to look my best. So my name is Ben Wu. I'm the founder and managing director of Neuralytics, the most forward-looking market research firm in the industry. Prior to founding Neuralytics, I was the worldwide vice president of storage research at IDC.
The key theme is here. I met Ben in the last few years. You were about the OpenSDx, OpenSDs, SDDC, whatever that software definedness is. You've been one of the analysts talking about this the most in the beginning. So glad to have you here.
Thank you very much.
Praveen, we talked about you. Obviously, let's move on to the next one.
So my name's Andy, and I'm with SoftBank, and I started my career here in the Silicon Valley building a managed infrastructure company, and we were focused on the developer market, and now I'm at SoftBank working on cloud computing for enterprise customers, which is how I met Praveen, and we're very excited to be here. Thank you very much for having us.
Super. It's great to have you, Andy. Next up. A brother from a different mother.
My name is Mark Glasgow, and I run enterprise storage sales for a company called Micron. We're a 37-year-old semiconductor company, which might seem a little bizarre that we have an enterprise storage sales team, as we've been an OEM provider for many, many years. And no, we're not competing with our OEMs, but we are out having end-user conversations with very large companies, specifically the big hyperscales, as they really do want to deal directly with the guys that are making the NAND. And so Micron's one of the few companies on the planet that actually makes NAND and DRAM. And it's really at the beginning of what we think are some very exciting times around the Internet of Things. And the world's about to get very interesting in the next 5 to 10 years, so we're excited.
So I was reading some Google alert on you. So you're moving to China now? Some
You know,
people
it's
got
funny.
that. One person got that in the room. There's a good rate in front of 500 people.
Pretty sure, yeah, well, no comment.
No comment. Fine. Nicely done. Do you get it? How to answer these questions? Go ahead.
Moving along quickly now.
Yeah.
My name's Sean Walsh. I'm from QLogic, and we make the flexible plumbing that lets all this software stuff change whatever they want to do with the physical layer.
Fantastic. Pepper is super interested in you, by the way, checking it out. So that's fantastic. So very quick. So let's start, Ben, with you, because you've been looking at these trends for some time. Neurolytics, obviously, you guys are very innovative, and you are in New York.
Yes, I'm in New York.
New York. You came down for this event all the way. We really appreciate it. What are the high-level trends you're seeing from talking to all these vendors and others?
Yeah, I guess at the end of the day, the software-defined anything is a very important component, and it's a glue piece between the data and the application. And when you look at what we're doing today, whether it's through converged solutions like VCE, or if you're even doing it yourself, the important part is this is the layer where all your data goes through. So this is a layer in which it's important to have a stability, it's important to have cohesiveness and enterprise-wide access. Because at the end of the day, it's a very simple equation. If you can't get to your data, you can't do anything with it.
Very good. So moving to, from that trending overall, I was at a dinner with Wells Fargo team, and we had some interesting conversations with the team. Your CFO was there, even your CEO and the team, executive team came in, and you guys talked about technology as the main differentiator for your business. I don't want to sound cliche here, but Mike, what are the things that you guys are focusing on right now from, impacting the business immediately perspective?
So I think, there's recognition for the fact that I use this term a lot, that you don't want to get Ubered, right? Essentially, you don't want to see competitors coming. You want to see your competition. And I think Wells Fargo is starting to recognize that, your competition is not the traditional bank anymore. It can be a software company for doing, coming out of a startup. So we are getting into the innovation mode. We've created innovation teams which are working independently of the business, going to the business and saying, have you seen this? Have you seen this? And do we want to get into that? So I think technology is going to be a key differentiator, and I think we get it. Right.
And you're leading a lot of these software-defined centric, so to speak, initiatives, obviously, right?
Yes, absolutely. So, from a technology perspective as a customer, I would say we get it, right? We get it, it's going there and stuff like that. The one thing which I talk to most of my partners is that you've got to remember we've got legacy processes, legacy mindsets, and a legacy infrastructure which we've got to take along. So that's where we try and innovate the most, candidly, is in the processes and stuff like that as well.
Kind of what Praveen talked about is like all the great new technology is great, but how we get most outcomes out of this, bringing all the systems together and play them next to each other, creating more value. 1 + 1 = 3, I guess, right? Praveen, that's what you were talking about. So tying to Tom, now you're doing it at HP, right? You have a lot of initiatives, you have a lot of legacy customers, you have a lot of new technology. What is the latest and greatest on HP? There are some obviously changes in the organization, right? With the structural changes of the company, which is very exciting, creates more value, obviously for shareholders and everybody else. Where do you see the things that you're working on impacting that, and obviously indirectly impacting the industry?
Well, I'm fortunate to work on some of our company's top initiatives. At HP, we have several transformation areas. One that's quite intriguing to me is this notion of being able to annihilate time and place and location dependencies on human activity. Sometimes that's called mobility, or having remote access to data, to applications, or to entertainment, shopping, et cetera. And when you can annihilate a time and a place dependency, you can catapult the human activity into the highest quadrant of efficiency as well. Another one is, of course, the notion of the amounts of data and the connectivity and the perpetual connectivity we're seeing with the Internet of Things, the network, the lower costs of network and connectivity, and being able to monitor and drive tremendous data-driven enterprises, as we call it. And very key here is time to insight, how fast from the data analytics to the actionable insight we can drive for our customers. I think these things are going to enhance tremendously. I would like to pick up on one thing from Jill's discussion, and how she has what I would call the instrumented athlete. And that is a very profound thing in the world of sports, where one can monitor the athlete's status from a health perspective, and not make a type 1 error by leaving an athlete in and there's some problems, not making a type 2 error by pulling an athlete out when the star athlete doesn't need to be. And those impact sensors on American football and NFL, I think, are going to be exciting to see a new, perhaps, statistic called the impact factor, how hard a player is hit, which is a thrilling thing for at least the American male to see. So a lot of good things are happening in the future, and we're pioneering a lot of them, and it's all about computing and analytics and insight into the data.
It's fantastic. So speaking of some of the things that I'm going to pick on, we'll talk about mobility, the infrastructure as a whole, and some of the applications and the data, big data, tying to those applications and integrating those pieces even tighter together and doing it in any fashion, right? Because you're dealing with all these new applications, systems, and that's why we're here at VMworld as an association to our event, ready for any. So Getan, ready for any. So you're in the middle of that. You run the vSAN programs, virtual SAN. By the way, is it vSAN or virtual SAN?
Officially virtual SAN.
But you and I, we are the old school guys. So let's call it vSAN between you and me. So you're leading that program globally. We just announced this promotion. Carl talked about it. But what's your insight on it? Just can you talk about the program a little bit more in detail? Because Carl went pretty fast about it.
Okay, yeah, sure. Well, so for us, virtual SAN is really about hyperconverged infrastructure. Right? So if you look at the way people deploy infrastructure today, it's silos. You have a compute silo, networking silo, storage silo. There's a lot of complexity there, right? A lot of physical clutter. And the SDDC, I think, helps, but doesn't really remove all that physical clutter. And we think that hyper-converged infrastructure, where you move everything to run a software on x86, a little bit like what you guys are doing, right, is really the right way, the right path, and it provides the best building block for the SDDC. And so that's what vSAN is about. vSAN enables the storage piece of that convergence, right? So vSAN's been out for about 1.5 years, 2,000 customers today, doing very well. I think we got a lot of momentum this week at VMworld, and then of course we announced the joint promotion around Exenta Connect for vSAN to provide file services on top of vSAN, which was great too.
Fantastic. So the promotion is basically, that's important. With Exenta, we're providing file services, which is important for VDI deployments and virtualization. vSAN provides all the orchestration management and obviously combined, and 1 year free license and free support for this from Exenta. And that's a big deal for us, obviously, and we got tremendous customer support. I know Wipro is a big user. Now the latest VDI deployment. Anush, can you talk about the Open Data Center and your VDI deployment with Raja a little bit very quick and what you guys are doing? Because that's, like Carl and Getan talked about, that is the champagne you're selling, but you're drinking your own champagne, right? So you build the Open Data Center, but you're the user of it. And you're going to provide the services through that to third-party customers that you guys are managing the infrastructure for, correct?
Absolutely, Turkan. And let me start from a customer perspective first. So see, we realized a customer wants to take a homogeneous decision at a point in time. So he wants to pick up a particular technology, a particular brand. But various other changes over a period of time, he is always heterogeneous. So it's all about handling a heterogeneous complexity of a customer. The second basic premise, we realized it's all about effective placement of data. So, one could call it cloud workload, one could call it analytics, and, you can keep going vertical-wise, and we do a lot of work on that side. Based on this, we went into the data center and took on each layer. So we started all the way down from the HVACs. So we do cooling design, and we do a lot of work there, and we do a lot of data center management from that side. Going up from the compute to the network, to the storage, to the cloud, then to the PaaS, and then to the DevOps. And finally, because we come from a background of application development, the app workload layer. For each of these, we figured out what is the way the customer is doing the heterogeneous environment today, and how does he do it tomorrow, right? We charted out the path, and we did a beautiful transition path for each kind of a vertical, how should he do it, and I'll dovetail it into the Wipro side then. And we went about then we realized this all sounds good, but is there an environment a customer can walk in and test it out? So we created this nice center of excellence, which is in Bangalore and in Mountain View, where a customer can walk in, put that workload, do all this, and then with him, we walk the path by making a transition path. So one of the first things we did with this was we went in and tried this in Wipro for the VDI deployment from a east to west perspective. And that worked beautifully. And it really gave us, apart from efficiency, beautiful price point benefits. So it worked super for us.
So this is, like you mentioned, it's Bangalore-based and Mountain View-based. and you're deploying the services through this to customers today.
Absolutely. So we, in terms of, while we say heterogeneous, and what is our tagline, our positioning is simplifying life, right, for the IT. So figuring out how it works, is what we do, and we test the workloads while functionally it works, actually in real environment, and see, we believe of doing work or change for a customer the non-disruptive way, bringing in and solving the disruption issues. So that's how we go about doing it.
Super. So Andrew, obviously you've been in this for a long time, even though you have those boyish looks. People don't know you're actually 82 years old, based on your experience. So now at SoftBank, Open Data Center, OpenSDx is nothing new to you. Actually, you've been an advisor to me and a mentor to me on some of the things that you're looking for, requirement-wise. No worries, I'm not going to ask any questions about Pepper's artificial intelligence algorithm. Andy sends me an email. Don't ask me anything on the AI in the brains of Pepper, because I don't know. I didn't write the algorithm, Alex wrote. At SoftBank now, you're taking that, but Wipro is talking about it as a service. You are deploying some of these things internally, correct?
Right. So we like to use the technologies internally before we sell them to our customers. So that's kind of the first thing. But what's really changed is the pace of innovation in the enterprise market that we're focused. And I should mention that we focus on an enterprise kind of IT and cloud computing market in Japan. So totally domestically, we're looking at this and how do we sell the technologies that come from other parts of the world. And traditionally, SoftBank's taken a lot of great stuff out of the Silicon Valley and just had a field day in Japan. The iPhone, in particular, is one that was a big success for us. And now, with AI and how to, kind of empower, companies to utilize this data, like Jill was describing with the tennis team, as a competitive advantage. But now we have a couple things going on. We've got a cloud computing aspect of it where we have infrastructure that this runs on, and technologies like Nexenta can sit in that environment and provide us a really easy way to manage all of the storage that the big data lives on, so we don't have these silos and we have this information that can be moved around. And then we have an aspect of the business that's really the big data technologies, the database software, the Hadoop and the BI tools that are used. And now there's a third layer where we have a partnership with IBM to bring Watson and cognitive cloud computing into the picture and really put all this together. So hopefully Pepper can be part of this, and we bring the technology from the consumer business into the enterprise and start to take a look at the CIO in kind of a different way. Because the CIO is, in my personal opinion, in the enterprise, kind of in this really unfortunate situation right now. You've got all this new technology coming from the outside with AWS, and technologies that are innovation that's not happening with the IT team. That's happening in the line of business and consultants driving the decisions. So problems like data security, data sovereignty, what you can actually do with the data become, impossible to manage. So we're interested in empowering the CIO with technologies, like Nexenta, technologies from VMware, technologies from VCE, as an innovator in his company.
And you're deploying these technologies, obviously, not specifically in every company you guys own, but SoftBank is a value network. From Sprint to many other gaming companies you guys own in Japan, in India you have investments in digital space. So a lot of use cases that actually you test products in and so forth. Like we're working with Sprint, thanks to SoftBank relationship, what they're doing with archives and cloud storage. So a lot of excitement working with you. To be honest with you, a call to action. It's a crime not to meet these folks after these sessions. They're all partner customer opportunities, go-to-market opportunities with them. SoftBank is one of them. Some people sometimes think SoftBank is a bank. Well, it's a bank of IP assets, that's for sure. So thank you, Andrew, for being part. I know you're going back in Japan and back and forth all the time, but thank you for giving the insight to us from a cloud perspective. And then SoftBank is a mobile provider like KDDI and NTT in Japan, but it's much bigger than that with the global initiatives. You're based here, but on a plane basically between Narita and SFO, correct?
Yeah, I'm based here in the Silicon Valley, but I'm focused on the business in Japan, so I'm in Tokyo very frequently, and I'm always interested in learning about new technologies in these areas that we might deploy in our business in Japan.
Super.
Also on the mobile side, as you mentioned.
I'm going to leave one of the Peppers with you later. You need a companion in those long flights. So, Sean, QLogic, talk about the company, because from a branding perspective, some people don't really know what you guys do. I know you already mentioned, but where the value that you bring in as a company? You have a few technologies. You have a very exciting CTO. He
Yes.
was in one of our Wells Fargo dinners.
Yep.
There were two super exciting people. One was you, Mike, and one of them is your CTO. We are partnering with you guys as well. But for the audience's sake, we have a lot of international folks as well. What are you guys working on today specifically, and what is the next for you guys as a company from a strategy perspective at a very high level?
Yeah, so if you look at what we're trying to do in terms of enablement of software-defined storage, there's really three areas that matter. One, of course, is performance has changed from being about the absolute right bandwidth to the latency. One of the interesting things is you had the University of Northern Arizona on there. One of the other things that they did as a survey a while back is they talked about latency. And if I'm talking to you and I pause for more than a quarter of a second, you'll see you lean in, your facial expression changes. You're looking for that feedback. And that's what people expect from applications, is that they're responsive. And that's really, when you look at what we're trying to do with infrastructure, is change that. The second is to deal with massive scale out and congestion management. Because you can have the biggest pipe in the world, but if you have 6 of them and you're running all the traffic through one, then you're not going to get the performance and the latency that you're looking for. So we try and deal with that sort of congestion management. Because think about all the changes that you guys want to make dynamically at a software level. You need to have intelligent infrastructure that does that. And then the last part is dealing with multi-tenant and security issues. We all have a favorite story about something that got hacked or distributed. And when it comes down to it, understanding how you segregate that traffic, make it run fast, and make it secure. So for us, those are the big pillars that we're focused on in our partnership with Nexenta to make sure that you can see the results for the changes you make at that console screen.
Super. So tying that conversation, Balaji, I'm going to come back to you. Obviously, you're doing a lot of work in UCS. One of our biggest customers are together is University of Toronto. We've done a lot of work with there. Carl Lischenbach and I talked about this morning with VMware. We have like almost 22 petabytes of storage we're managing together on UCS servers.
Yep.
Don't tell that to Alan Atkinson from Dell. But you guys done an amazing job there. VMware is part of it. EMC is part of the engagement there as well with VC. There are some VC stacks there. We're managing all those oncology, healthcare data, and analytics. But this is just one. There are many of them coming up like that. So UCS has been a server story now, but with the software-definedness and opportunity that we have together, now it is moving into a full stack in many different ways. What's your vision next, and how does it tie to the VC story?
Yeah, I think, in general, I think the open source is sort of eating you say software is eating the world. I think open source is eating the sort of closed source software. And I think people are adopting a lot of open source technologies. But I think there's a challenge in adopting those things, right? If you look at the container world, there's so many different pieces from so many different players, and you have to do a lot of work to put them together. Same with OpenStack as well, right? Even though I've attended OpenStack since like the Diablo days in like 2011, it's still coming. It's still
You're the grandfather of it.
It's still not there in terms of wide adoption. There's a lot of challenges there. So I feel like there's an opportunity. I think the industry needs to come together and create these integrated solutions that helps you really adopt those things. But I think open source is definitely there. In terms of, I guess, our joint solutions, I think we are definitely working together. A good win there with the University of Toronto, and obviously we're doing more validations. So I think from a Cisco perspective, we feel that we need to give choices. We obviously align with the traditional storage providers as well as the software-defined storage providers. And I think these are all different choices. Everything is adopted in certain time cycle, right? Even containers, even though everybody's talking, the hype cycle is there right now. I think there are certain use cases where it's really useful, like low-hanging use cases are like containers as a service, like microservices that you have as a VM today. Maybe you want to go as a container. Yeah. I think the other big factor is like a CI/CD kind of use cases that makes it a lot more easier to do via containers. But it's not going to replace everything. At Cisco IT, for example, we have petabytes of storage, many of them are VMDK based. Like, you know, if we can cut down the size, we can save a lot of data. Maybe you'll lose some money in business, but we feel this is a kind of a huge inflection point that's happening in the data center.
Sure. Yeah, totally agree. And Mark, I think you would agree, right? From a Micron perspective, because at the end of the day, your stuff is going to go into a lot of these systems. Giving choice to customers means capacity is going to grow on multiple systems, multiple protocols, multiple stack. You talk about OpenStack containers. VMware, obviously. Look, let's not forget about Microsoft and Citrix. There are still a lot of customers using Zen, a lot of customers using KVM, a lot of Hyper-V, right? So, Mark, you guys are in a space, there are a lot of players, right? And not maybe direct competitor, but overlaps. From Samsung to HGST, Steve Milligan is here, you're going to talk next. You have, obviously, SanDisk, Western Digital, obviously, with Steve. Seagate is looking at the space. Again, as I mentioned, Dan Nolt is going to be here later on Samsung front. How do you guys differentiate from the rest in the context of the things that we're talking about today?
Well, so we've been around a long time, and at the commodity end of the spectrum, where we clearly are, I mean, DRAM doesn't get much more commodity than that. We do what we do best, and that is we innovate. And I don't know if any of you saw the announcement that we made along with Intel on a joint venture about 2 weeks ago on a technology called 3D XPoint. So it's 1,000 times faster than NAND, 1,000 times more resilient, and 10 times more dense. We're all about hastening this switchover from spinning media to things that don't have any moving parts for a whole bunch of reasons. You know, not only do you consolidate the size of your data center significantly, but the power and cooling, your speed of transactions, everything just sort of feels and looks better. You know, I saw a statistic the other day. If you look at the entire world of storage, only 5% has been penetrated by flash. So we at Micron feel like we're at the beginning, maybe at the bottom of the first inning of a very long baseball game. And having been around 35 plus years, we're very careful about, we're a very conservative company, but we like our position. We like where we are with Intel. By the way, we own 51% of that joint venture, and we own the right to buy their half. They don't own the right to buy our half. So we
thank you for cleaning it up. So there's no need for drama.
We think that's a good place to be. So
that's awesome.
You know, and so it's so much that's been mentioned here. I love what Coach Jill said. You know, these athletes that are, you know, it is scary because they're so competitive. These girls and anybody playing at that level will do, I mean, they have done crazy things to get where they are. So I love to see these coaches and organizations taking care of their athletes, even if it takes the Internet of Things to monitor how much they're working out, what they're, you know, they're wearing heart rate monitors, they're measuring everything. They've got new technology coming that will more accurately measure their caloric burn rate. So I'm sure they have dietitians watching everything they're taking, because these people are pushing their bodies to the limits. And so it's very exciting times, and we at Micron plan to support all of that.
Yeah. No, it's true. By the way, TK left, right? Anuj, he's left. Okay, so I can talk about the story he told me. He told me not to tell, but I'm gonna, since he's gone, I can do it. Right. Yeah, and you never heard me. But TK was talking about in Chelsea, Jose Mourinho, the coach, actually monitors everything they're doing. Everything, like eating habits, how much water they're drinking, everything is being tracked.
Sleep.
Zero privacy. Yeah. There's no democracy, there's a dictatorship in that team, but there are results and it's a business. We should be running Next Central this way. I give me a lot of ideas. Praveen, disk and flash, I don't want to get drama on this, but what's your view? Like, you know, you heard Sumit talking about it, SanDisk, Infinite Flash, you partner with a lot of these companies. Steve's going to talk about Western Digital and HGST, the things that we're working on. Chris Miller yesterday, after hearing all these things, he said, and he's in the room, he's going to talk about it, he said, disk is dead. Do you, obviously, sure. we're having fun in this conversation, but how you guys are seeing the space, VC?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's interesting, right, in the quote that Coach had about, you know, you may be going the same direction, but if you don't move, you're going to get run over. That's kind of what it feels like in the technology space right now. And it's exciting times because there's dramatic amount of technology evolution that's happening. Not just, you know, we think about software will eat the world, but it's got to run on something. right? And I think the hardware piece is incredibly important. I was talking to Intel a while back, and they talked about essentially, us geeks get excited about this, the nanometer processes. Today it's about 16, 17 nanometer. They expect it'll go down to 0.5 nanometers. Essentially, compression of everything that you know by a factor of 10. Right? That's coming the next couple of years. So you think about that, you think about some of the memory technologies, fundamentally the way we use and incorporate, technology into our lives is going to change. Right? And I think that's really the exciting piece. And if you look at the evolution of VCE as well, when we initially started off, it was the big honking, arrays, and we continue to have a pretty large business around that. But what we've announced at VMworld is really a fully software-defined, bright box-based architecture, which is going to essentially scale out to the extent that you want it to scale out, so you can do those kind of applications. So, at the end of the day, again, I'll come back to it. It's about outcomes. We get excited about different pieces of technologies. It's how you put those things together, deliver something, as compelling as Pepper, for example, right? That really brings it to life. And I think that should be our sort of task, our call to duty. Yeah.
By the way, he was nodding as you're speaking. I swear, it's an incredible machine. So, Tom, coming back to you. I mean, hi, baby. He loves me. You were talking about...
How much, by the way?
Not as much as Sean, though. He's giving Sean
sound like,
the admiring looks there.
What was that?
Not as much as Sean.
That's why.
He's admiring Sean all day.
You sound like a Borat. How much? So I don't know. How much is it? I think it's this one is like is going to be announced later on, but I believe it's going to be below $10,000. Below, for sure. But it's going to be a service. SoftBank and Alderman are smart companies. It's a service engagement, like a mobile phone. It's a device. Pepper goes, I'm not a mobile phone, I'm a humanoid. Tom, you're listening to the rest of the group here. Obviously, HP redefined the industry multiple times. How is the Moonshot program going on and the programs around that you're managing? I know you have a lot of other responsibilities, but that had a lot of interest in it. Interest is continuing. What's the next phase based on where we are now with HP and the overall server strategy?
Well, we have several platforms, as you know, and I think metaphorically the HP server and systems platforms are somewhat like a very finely crafted state-of-the-art symphony hall on which the Nexenta software can actually perform. And I mean specifically there, when you mentioned Moonshot, that's a family of about 7 servers, different types of servers. It was the first industry platform to announce a 64-bit ARM server. First industry platform to announce a integrated graphics from Intel, where the graphics chip is on the same die as the Xeon processor. So we've done a lot of innovation there, but the one that relates to your work and your team's work is quite intriguing to me. We have in that chassis, which is about 4U, a local chassis fabric, and that is a sideband outside of the traditional Ethernet where up to 180 servers can be interconnected at a very high speed. Low latency fabric. Now, the profundity of that lies not in the specs, but as much as what is the customer value. And with your software, we can create a virtual pool of storage. And that, of course, is software-defined storage, and that is many, many terabytes within this box that can be allocated to different workloads, different CPUs, and different software stacks that are in the particular box. The value there lies in a single part number to manage, where the external storage is not needed in many cases. Also, lower cable management. And you may know this, but some of the top reasons why deployment doesn't happen fast because of misconnections in cables. So dropping down from conventional servers to a converged server can drop it from hundreds of cables down to maybe a dozen. And the value proposition there of lower latency and higher quality, smaller footprint, is about 7 benefits to doing this. It's very powerful. So I'm rather excited about the relationship and the whole software-defined world, because it does take a fabric and an interconnect, to do that, as you very well know.
And all thanks to your team's work, we have a couple of SKUs we're working on with you. And we'll look forward to pushing that to the market because we have customers asking that question. So that's perfect. So Ben, listening to all of these things, final thoughts from you. You're looking at all these players, all these announcements this week at VMworld.
Sure.
On all flash, on hyperconverged. You heard the Infinite Flash from SanDisk today, $1.50 per gig. all in, 8 million IOPS on Dell's Supermicro platforms. We're going to work obviously with UCS and HP platforms as well, given choice. OpenStack, container support, all out of the box. Game is changing pretty fast.
Yeah, the game is definitely changing, and a lot of us here today have talked about the concepts of, software-defined technologies. And for the enterprise customers that are here today, the end users, I want to ask you a question, which is your organization a software-defined organization? Let me ask that question. Is your organization a software-defined organization? I'll give you a good example. Mike at Wells Fargo, our company happens to be a customer. I don't care what he's running in the background. I do care that he's a software-defined bank for me, because I can't remember the last time I've physically signed a check. Same with SoftBank. Are they a software-defined ICT company? As far as Coach Ellis is concerned, she only cares about whether the technology that's delivered to her is software-defined in a sense that doesn't work for me. And if the answer for your enterprise customers is, I'm not a software-defined organization, then you must change, and change today. Because what you're going to lose is competitive advantage. You're going to lose revenue, right? And for the technology providers here and the vendors and everybody here, it's your job to help the CIO, to Andy's point, make that happen and make it happen easily. All right? So I think that's the best advice I can give to your customers and the people here today.
No, that's top program. As you're talking, by the way, Pepper was like this. This guy makes sense. I swear he was nodding.
By the way, he likes Sean because they have to share the same hairstyle.
So on that note, speed date style, the last line of questions. He just coughed. So would love to have, because we're going to have 3 of these panels very quick, and this is the last line, very quick. I need 1 sentence call to action from each of you, because some of these folks are going to meet you in the break. So think about it. 1 sentence call to action. Don't do 2 sentences. I'm going to cut you off. 1 sentence call to action. You can say like, come to my website, or a word about that you guys are going to focus on as a technology. I'm going to start, Sean, with you. Because you look smart and you look fast.
I look smart and fast. You obviously have not seen me play soccer. This unfortunately is a software-defined part I have.
Oh gosh.
No, I think the one call to action I would ask for everyone here is look at how you're going to move from existing legacy systems into new systems. We've got a great paper on our site. Please go take a look at that.
Thank you. Thank you. 1 sentence. Very good. Mark.
So the call to action is, Micron's a company that oftentimes sits in the background. Keep an eye on us. We've got some amazing announcements. We just made a huge one a couple of weeks ago. And as I look at who's on this panel, almost everybody here should be using what we're making here in the next little bit if you're not already. And yeah, so just keep an eye on Micron.
It was 1 paragraph, but it was called up as a 1 sentence. That's creative. That's super software defined. I love it. So Andy.
So my message is just, and call to action is, whatever you're working on here in the Silicon Valley as an enterprise company or a startup, 10x. We need 10x a type of differentiation and value in the market. We need to go beyond just a commodity play like what Micron's doing. We need to have 10 times the value in whatever you're doing. So think big.
Another paragraph, but it's talk like 1 sentence. So Praveen.
Well, it's really about outcomes, right? I think as a community, as a technology industry, we need to focus on helping our customers deliver outcomes, not technology widgets. So that'll be my call.
Super, thank you. Ben.
Yeah, take a look at all your data as a single pool and do something useful with it.
I appreciate the 1 sentence. I love you.
I tried to comply.
Open source is definitely going to be valuable to you. Take a look at it and adopt in your company.
Super, Polish. Thank you. Mike.
Technology is not easy, but it's the easier part. The processes, people, culture, mindset is often more difficult.
Thank you, Mike.
All right. So for me, moving to software-defined storage, I think should be a priority. Checking out solutions like vVols, Virtual SAN, Xenta Connect, right? So all of these things, I think, are the future from a storage standpoint. And so I think everybody should be looking at those solutions as a priority.
Thank you, Gaetan. Really appreciate it. Anuj.
The future is open platforms, and Wipro's Open Data Center is here. And also, remember, we got Xenta kind of partners working with us. So success is there for sure.
Thank you, Anuj. Tom.
I would say embrace open because it is the mechanism by which multiple companies can collaborate on innovation, comma.
That was a nice one, good one.
And innovation is how we can make the industry thrive and help people with their problems.
Which is true, which is true. Thank you all. I like your speed dating style, really appreciate it. Thank you, and we're gonna see you again next year, obviously. In the breaks, the team is gonna talk to you guys as well. So as I'm having you off the stage, thank you so much, next to Pepper. Pepper loves you. I would love to bring up my dear friend, Steve Milligan from Western Digital for a fireside chat. Thank you, guys.